Hello and welcome to season 2 of the So Here For It podcast. I am your host, Amy Mingin, and I have so much goodness to share with you this season. This is the first episode of season 2, and I cannot wait to get into it. Now, in this particular episode, we are talking about vibration. We are talking about energetics. And most importantly, we're going to talk about the vibration and energetics of our emotions. Because here's the thing. Sometimes humans let their emotions run them. And what if I said to you that it is possible for you to control your emotions? Is that something that you think that would be really handy for you? Like, you think about this. How many times in your life has a particular emotion come up for you and you've had zero idea about how to process it, what it is, what's triggered it, and you just want to make it go away? Well, here's the thing. Our body is run by our unconscious mind, or our subconscious mind is how you might have heard of it before. Now, today I'm going to talk about the energetics and the vibration of emotion. And where does it come from? And where is it stored? Hint, hint, it's stored in the body. So this is a beautiful episode to go along with the previous season. If you haven't already gone and listened to and binged listened to the first season, please go ahead and do that. And inside this particular season, I'm going to make sure that you really get what happens in your body, not only in a physicality way, but this particular season is going to be about the different types of bodies that we have. So maybe you think that our physical body is the only body that we have. Well, I'll have you know, we also have an energetic body. We also have an etherical body. We also have a spiritual body. And the way that we treat these bodies has a direct reflection on our emotional state, which then has a direct reflection on what happens inside of our body and how well it's working. Have you ever had one of those situations where you really want to go and do something, but you're injured? Or every time you know that it's time to up level in your life, you get sick. Or you're just about to peak, you reach the peak of something in your life, you make the team, you get promoted, you have a really important speaking event on, you name it, and almost guaranteed a lot of people will get the flu or they will get some random injury. And hey, it actually happened to me. And in another episode, I will talk to you guys all about my marathon journey, because it is a journey worth exploring, and it's going to be directly spoken about in this more energetic and emotional way. So I can't wait to dive into that in another episode. But for this one in particular, I want to give you a lot of context around emotion, context around what it's like to be inside our nervous systems, but also to have such great awareness around what happens to us energetically. Because our life is always happening, right? It's our response and our emotional state that will then allow us to choose whether that is a good meaning, a bad meaning, or some other meaning. We're always making meaning of things, right? So let's get into this. What is an emotion? You're probably thinking, all right, well, it's something that we feel, and you're correct. An emotion is a way that we can express the way that our 5 senses are feeling. Okay, but what happens when something occurs and our emotional state changes like that? Can you ever explain that? Now, this happens in a nanosecond. This happens because energetically something has shifted. Energetically, our primitive brain, which I've talked about in previous episodes, that brainstem part of our brain, it is wired for us to survive. It's not wired for us to thrive. It's wired for us to survive. So it does whatever it possibly can for us to be in our survival mechanism. So the moment that something like fear or something new or something uncomfortable pops up, of course, that part of the brain is going to be like, ding, ding, ding. You sure you want to do this? Here's an emotion. Ever seen that movie Inside Out? And it's got all the different emotions at the booth inside the mind. And They create memories, and each one is dominant. You have a think about it. Like, how quick are you to feel anger, or how quick are you to give up and feel depressed about something? This is all because our subconscious mind is trying to keep us safe every single time. Now, I want you to consider how many things have happened in your life where you could have done the thing, but because of your emotions, you didn't. Or you could have made a change, but because of your emotions, you went back into safety. Now, this is totally normal, by the way. This is not to name and shame anything or anyone. What this is, the goal of this is to bring more awareness, because in some episodes that are coming up, I will speak into this. This particular awareness is part of manifestation, and that's a very important part of energetics. And you've probably heard of law of attraction. You've probably heard about manifestation in so many different ways, but the way that I speak about it is unique. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you in the next episode. But first and foremost, I want you to consider, what is your dominant emotion? Have a think about it. Think about when you first wake up, what's the first thought that goes through your head? You go to the bathroom, you might brush your teeth, have a cuppa. What are the thoughts that are going through your head? Because I know for sure, if you're in that survival side of life, it could be a bit of doom and gloom, right? But if you're in the side of life where you're like excited, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, guess what I get to do today? As opposed to, oh, I suppose I better look at my to-do list. There's always a flip side. There's always a positive or negative. There's always a polarity playing out. And it's always about, what are you focusing on? Please write that down. If you're in the space to write that down, write that down. What am I currently focusing on? What is my dominant emotion? Because this is going to affect your current vibrational state. Now, the reason why I'm speaking into the vibrational state is because we're going to be talking about quantum. We're going to be talking about the intangibility aspect of life, which is the energetics, which is the spiritual side of life. And it might sound quite woo-woo and fluffy and out there to some people, but this stuff, it's real. It is real. I have tried and tested it multiple times. There's so many people out there in the world who are really specifically working in this sort of area, and they make millions. And that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I want you to make millions in your body. I want you to heal your body utilizing these techniques. And you can't utilize the technique until you have a lot of context around it, so you know how to make it more tangible. So what if we were saying that we're going to talk about a lot of intangible things, and I'm going to give you the steps in order how to make it tangible inside of your mind and inside of your body. That's the beauty of this podcast. I want you to be able to have lots and lots of takeaways. I want you to be able to say, oh yeah, I know what my dominant emotion is. I know what I am positively geared for, and I know what I'm negatively geared for. Because as soon as you have this awareness, that is the time you can do something about it. If you're racing around and you're being delusional in a not so great way, you know, the people who are delusional in the way of they don't believe in themselves, that they don't trust themselves, that they don't follow through on what they say they're going to do, you know, those types, they're the ones I'm specifically talking about. Because if you can be authentic, the latest study is authenticity is 4,000 times stronger in its magnetic field compared to love. So love vibrates at 500 hertz, which is fairly up there. There's a high vibration state. Imagine 4,000 times that. So 20,000 hertz is authenticity. Now, you want to know what authenticity really is? I wrote it down. Authenticity happens when your words are truthful and you believe what you're saying. So again, I'm going to circle around to the word delusion. What delusion are you believing? Because your version of authenticity is yours and yours alone. Your version of reality is yours and yours alone. There's no need for you to justify your existence or your reality to anybody else. Stop trying to change anyone else's mind and just be yourself. Stop trying to be anybody else and just be yourself. So the energy of authenticity is the true energy of magnetism, which is the true energy of health, of wealth, of creation. Now you think about this. If you're not being yourself, then who are you being? If you are vibrating in a low vibration, often, I will say often, the focus is on someone else or something else and not on yourself. Have you ever noticed that? If you're ever in comparison, the comparison is keeping you in a lower vibration state. That the comparison is keeping programs of things that don't feel great to you programmed into your subconscious because it's what you keep thinking about. Now think about it this way. The brain can only hold 5 pieces of information at any one time. The rest of that information, which is over 2 million bits per second, this is subconscious work, by the way. 2 million bits of information per second is what we're processing with our nervous system and our 5 senses, possibly more if you're on the spectrum. Let's say in a neurotypical sense, 2 million pieces of information, but our brain can only hold 5 to 9. That's at best. And I used to run personal development days, and I still run trainings, but just in a different way, more health oriented ones. Ask me more about quantum health, and I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to have a look at that. And also we have done this test inside of these events where we go, it was one of my favorite things, and I'd say, have you ever played my mother went shopping? And it goes something like this. My mother went shopping and she bought an apple. And then the next person goes, okay, so my mother went shopping, she bought an apple and a shopping trolley. And then the next person goes, my mother went shopping and she bought an apple, a shopping trolley, and a broom. And so on and so forth. So I just got to 3, right? I wonder if you can say it right now, those 3. Because you'd be the number 4. So that's 4 pieces of information. And then we do it with another person. Now, what we notice is once we get to about the 5th or 6th person, this is in just a normal person audience, then the words would start to be changed. So let's say I said apple and I said shopping trolley. Somebody further down would probably just say trolley. So they would delete, distort, or generalize the information. And this is exactly what the subconscious mind does. So if you think about it, your version of reality, you've got your own version of reality, and you're constantly, so that you stay on top of things, you're either deleting, distorting, or generalizing. And the person next to you, they're in the exact same position, but they have their version of reality. They're deleting, they're distorting, they're generalizing. So why on earth are we trying to explain ourselves to people? Have a think about that. If they're already focused on all of their own stuff, everybody, if you're in a room, everybody's focused on their own thing. And then they start comparing themselves to someone else's reality when that other person is just as deluded because they're the ones that's deleting, distorting, and generalizing as well. So you've got your version, they've got their version. Everybody believes in their own truth. Everybody believes in their own distortions and their own delusions. And then guess what happens? They start spiraling because they're programmed to compare themselves. They're programmed inside their environment. They're programmed to fit in. They're programmed to feel particular ways. And often this emotional state is not a positive one. Because you know why? Because the brainstem is trying to keep you safe. And so then you go back into that negative spiral. You wake up the next day and you're like, oh my gosh, this is wrong and this is wrong. And I have to do this and I have to do that. And oh my God, it's cold and it's dark. And hit the snooze button. I'll tell you something. Nobody ever got anywhere great by hitting the snooze button. It's for real. The day that I learned that technique from Mel Robbins, like I'm always a morning person, but think of it this way. Mel Robbins does the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. So take this as very tangible advice. If you want to start changing your subconscious mind, you have to start changing your subconscious habits. So you wake up in the morning, if your alarm goes off at 5 a.m., like mine, and you're still mid-dream, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to finish that dream, just don't hit the snooze button, hit the stop button, and get yourself out of bed. And you just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and out of bed. And you get yourself out of bed. And then the way to stay out of bed, make sure you go to the bathroom, splash your face with cold water. I know, it sounds brutal, but it works. And then you're going to stop hitting snooze. And all of a sudden, you're going to have more time in the morning. And what are you going to do with that time? You could be raising your vibration. You could be changing your emotional state. You could be walking. You could be running. You could be listening to great music. You could do a meditation. You could do yoga. You could do breath work. You could drink more water. You could message someone and tell them how grateful you are that they're in your world. You could hug your child. You could play with your dog. There are a multitude of things that you could do so that you're more present, so that you are in a higher vibration state, so that you can change your emotional state over time. It'll feel like it changes straight away. But these things, these emotions, they're actually stuck in habit loops most of the time, because this is the way you stay safe. Your subconscious mind is running your body every single second. Remember this, you're deleting, distorting, and generalizing. So your version of reality. Have you ever heard somebody like go totally crazy about something that's going on in their lives, and you're just kind of sitting there being like, this is rather dramatic. But you know why? Because it's a big deal to them. Why is it a big deal? We don't know, because we're not inside their mind and we're not inside their reality. They're inside their reality. The best thing that we can do is be supportive. The best thing that we can do is utilize our own beliefs and our own values and our own supportive way to help be stable in our emotional state in order to help the other person. Now, this is the clincher to all of this emotional state stuff. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, and I teach all of this in quantum, by the way. There is so much important information to share about your vibration, but your most important vibration is, how do you get yourself to neutrality? And you might be like, isn't neutral a bit meh? And yes, it can feel meh to the people who are rather dramatic. I want you to have a think about this though. I know that there's the Hawkins scale of consciousness, which is what I refer to quite a bit. And if you think about guilt and shame, they're at the bottom of this, and they vibrate at about 20. If we put it on that scale. And then what I was saying about authenticity before, authenticity vibrates at 20,000 hertz. And love is at 500, and enlightenment is like 700, something like that. But I want you to have a think about, where is your dominant state? And if you haven't looked it up, just look it up. I'll put the link down into the show notes below. But I want you to have a think about, where is your dominant emotion? Where are you normally vibrating? So if you're normally in fear, fear is just below anger and desire. It's not a super low vibe state, because you think about how you are feeling when you're fearful. You're actually full of energy until you're not. Then you go into a freeze state. But you think about the initial stressful period when you're fearful of something. It's like, oh my gosh, blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up, you might get sweaty, you might get clammy. You notice such a big difference, right? So if you're normally in fear, how do you get yourself into neutrality? Neutrality vibrates much higher. How would you do it? How do you get into neutrality? I'll tell you how I do it. How about that? Now, neutrality, it's not the highest vibration, no. Although I have often said that it is. And the reason is this. You can't vibrate at the highest vibration forever, because it ends up plateauing. It's inevitable that we move up and down this scale all day long. Sometimes you might feel a bit guilty for doing the wrong thing that you didn't realize was going to hurt somebody, for example. And then you can say sorry, there's the forgiveness, you can talk to them and communicate with them, and then all of a sudden the vibration changes and it dissipates and you'll be back in neutrality again. So that's one thing. But how do you do it for yourself? What if you have this dominant emotion, and what if you are constantly going round and round in circles in your head, and you're constantly getting the same things, the same results, and hanging out with the same people, doing the same old thing every day? This is what you need to do. You need to change your state. Now, the neurotransmitters in our brain, if you haven't listened to the neurotransmitter episode, go back and listen to it. It's called Dose. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. If you have a healthy amount of neurotransmitters, they're bathing every single cell of the body. If you were to change your state, i.e. put on some great music, what's your favorite song? Like, I love that song by Bob Sinclair, Love Generation. Love it. So I'll put that song on. Instantly, I stand up and I start to do a somatic process. And a somatic process is, it moves the viscera of the body and the connective tissue. So when I talked about it in the cellulite episode, it's all about that stuff that holds all of our organs and muscles and tendons and everything in place. That is where a lot of emotions are stored. What do you need to do to change an emotion? You need to shake it up. You need to move. You need to breathe. You need blood flow. You see how all of this stuff fits together so beautifully well? So, okay, you put on your music, you start to shake it out, you start to dance, you just let your body move. And this herein is the problem with adults. Adults do not move enough. And I went to an event on the weekend and everyone's like, oh, how was it? I'm like, I felt so uncomfortable because I had to sit all day. I didn't like it. I don't like having to sit down and be like jammed in between people. What I love is being able to stand up and move, and having music on, particularly music that you really love, is going to influence your neurotransmitters. So shake it out. Get rid of all of it. I often say shake your spine because it's such an interesting feeling. If you were to shake your spine and give it a go, like stand up wherever you are and you shake out your spine, it literally is the most releasing thing for your nervous system. It takes you out of fight or flight and it puts you into more of a rest and digest phase. It helps to feed the cells with positivity instantly. So state change is one thing that you can do. Now, this is going to make you vibrate higher. Yes, it's going to change your emotional state. Yes. So now how do you get to neutrality? What if you went past the vibration of neutrality? That's actually okay. Because remember, this is a scale. You're never going to stay on the one particular emotion forever. No one is. But you can have dominant emotions. Like I said, you might dominantly feel fear. You might dominantly feel depressed. You might dominantly feel anger, which is where these tangible exercises come from, so that you can do them every day and you can start shaking things up inside the subconscious mind. Now, there's one thing that I want you to do on the other side of this, and it is for you to learn to come to neutrality. So you might go from a low state, which might be, let's say you felt angry and you put on some music and you got all of that anger out and you feel like you expressed yourself. And then you went to a higher state, let's say you got to joy. Neutrality is under joy, but it's where your nervous system loves to sit. It's just this beautiful calm state. It's blissful. It's very, very calming, and it's where you've got so much mental clarity. So I want you to consider this. The sooner you can bring yourself into neutrality, the better. So start being more aware of where you're at. Start changing your emotional state by doing something to your physical state. Use your 5 senses. Make sure that you are someone who has this and practices it frequently. Because if you're not practicing this every single day, then you do run the risk of being in the same position with the same emotions, saying the same things to the same people every single day, and having the same outcome. And that's just damn boring. So I want you to have great outcomes in your life. I want you to feel great about your life. I want you to have really, really great relationships and health and thrive rather than just survive. Now, this is just one part of the whole energetic story, but it's a really, really important one. So if you can focus in on your emotional state and start changing it each day, you are going to notice so many different things in your life, in your health, in your world. You're going to start noticing everything start to shift from a negative state into a more positive state. And also, you're welcome, because I'm so here for this. I'm so here for more people being able to access their more positive state rather than their negative. And you're going to start noticing the things that you're grateful for. So here is a beautiful thing I would love for you to do with this episode. First of all, massive thank you goes out to all of you beautiful listeners who have shared these episodes on your social media and tagged me. Like, it means the world to me. It literally lights me up and makes my day every time someone shares something on their socials and says what they got out of it, because you all get something out of it, right? Because guess what? Everyone hears it in their own unique way. They delete, distort, and generalize it. They put it out there on their social media, and I get to see your version of how you're bringing it into your life, and that makes my day. So thank you so much for sharing. And if you feel drawn to, share this episode with your friends. This is really, really important. This has the ability, and I'm going to call it here, this has the ability to save lives. There are so many people out there who do not know how to do this. They think that they're stuck in their current emotional state, and they think that there's nothing that they can do. This here is the world's best antidepressant, the world's best anti-anxiety medication, the world's best way to find a more positive state in your world and to start being able to access gratitude, which also is a very high vibration state. So I want you to please share this with people far and wide, because mental health matters. Oh my gosh, doesn't matter. Human lives matter. I want you to realize how much you matter to me and to other people. And also, when you share this, let me know what you're grateful for, and let me know what is your favorite song. I really want to know. I love to know what you're dancing to, what you're shaking it out to, and let me know what you got out of this episode, because it is a goodie. And thank you so much for listening today. It is a pleasure to have been here with you, and I will see you on the next episode.